Hidden Needles. I can't believe it's episode 2. I'm allowed to say welcome back because hopefully some of you are returning viewers, and a big hello to brand new watchers. Thanks for taking a chance on my podcast. There's so many fabulous ones out there. I was overwhelmed with the response to my first podcast. I didn't think I'd get that many viewers. The last time I checked this morning, my first episode had I think it was 100 views, 7 thumbs ups, and 26 subscribers. Now that's unbelievable. I know some of it are my friends from Ravelry, from my group in there, so thank you to them. And Jenny of Owl About Yarn kindly gave me a shout out on her podcast, which has hundreds of subscribers. And I know a few people came across from there to give me a go. And Jill, hi Jill, she very kindly left me a nice comment on the YouTube video, as did my friend Hannah. So thank you so much. That was really unexpected, and I'm thrilled to be having another go today. The first podcast, I just did it. I'm a slight perfectionist, and if I'm not careful, I'll be so keen to get things done perfectly right that actually they don't get started at all. So that first podcast, I thought, just do it, just have a go. And I've tried to change things up a little bit for this second one. As you can see, I'm in my front room. The light today in South Wales is pretty grim. It is grey and rainy. It's not cold, but it's just not very nice. And my front room, which is where I am now, gets much better light in the morning. So I thought I'd move in here and have a slightly better background for you guys to look at, and hopefully a bit more in the way of consistent light. So you can have a cheeky look at the inside of my front room. I've got some nice bits and pieces up on my mantelpiece by here. This beautiful mushroom on a stick thing, there it is, look, was the table centre from my friend Ellie's wedding a couple of years ago. She's another one of my Cardiff knitters, and she very kindly gave me one of the centrepieces. I love my mushroom display, absolutely gorgeous. And you can see in the mirror the reflection. Oh, I must learn which way to point. There it is. Can you see? You can see my pretend chandelier and my lovely Victorian ceiling rose. I live in a nice Victorian house and it's got some of the original features. So I thought this might be a bit more decorative for you lot to look at than my grey filing cabinets and my dingy back wall in the office. So I hope you like the improvements. The other things I learned after doing my third podcast were to save it. I lost the first one. I didn't save it and I had to start all over again. So the version that you guys got was version 2. So I must remember to click the save button. And so as well as the better backdrop, remembering to save it, the other thing was I decided to paint my nails. I was watching other podcasts this last week and everyone has such pretty nails. So I specially painted my fingernails for you. Can you see? Look, isn't that fantastic? I don't paint my nails very often, partly because I do a lot of weightlifting and getting the plates on and off the bars and things like that chips it. And also when I work on reception, taking change out of the till, you bang the ends. And if I'm honest, the main reason I don't paint my fingernails very much is because that's a whole knitting evening session gone, because you can't knit with wet fingernails. So I hope you appreciate it. I'm very pleased with them. Maybe I'll have a different colour for you next time. I've got my podcasting notes. So if I look slightly off centre, I'm just checking my notes. It's been 2 weeks since I saw you last. I can't quite remember what the date is. It's May the 20th, I think. I'm not sure. So it's been 2 weeks. And I've had ideas for what I wanted to talk about this week, but it has been busy. 3 children means it's a busy week. It's a busy time anyway. And Dave, my husband, went up to Birmingham for a day to a big industry event to drum up some new business. So with him being away and my manager having some leave booked as well, I've been working extra shifts which has made everything a bit harder work. But it did mean I got plenty of time commuting back and forth on the train to do some knitting. And it's much nicer than sitting in traffic. Can't really knit and drive, not terribly safe. What else have I been up to? Oh, I have very early starts. My eldest son, gets up at 6:30 in the morning so that he's able to leave for school on time. And I like a quiet start to my day, which means I need to get up at 6 a.m. just so I have half an hour, make a pot of tea, get myself straight. So I've had lots of early starts, and for some reason, I think perhaps because I've been working a bit more than usual, I've wanted to stay up late after the kids have gone to bed, a good couple of hours, bit of knitflixing, which is knitting to Netflix, knitflixing. So I've been a bit tired. I also injured my back a little bit when I was training. Nothing drastic, but that just took the edge off things, made it all seem like a bit harder work. So it's been a long 2 weeks, but I'm back and I've been having some fantastic ideas about what to talk to you guys about this week. So I'm just going to have a quick drink. I didn't even have time to make a pot of tea this morning. Dave has taken our two boys to the pictures. They're going to go and see Captain America Civil War, and my daughter Jocelyn is at her theatre group this morning, so I think I've got 25 minutes till she's back, so I've left her a note on the front door saying, shh, I'm recording. So hopefully there won't be too much noise when she comes back, so I need to crack on. Right, so first up is pins, my sewing section. Now, I had some plans that I mentioned last week. I wanted to make some coasters. I showed you that nice picture in the Chloe Owens book, all sewn up. I didn't get round to that in the end. I found some round felt things. I'm not sure what they're actually for. When we were at Wonderwool and we went to Flock, the knit night, you got a goodie bag, and in this goodie bag were two blue felt circles like this. I have no idea what they're actually for, but they are now coasters, so I saved myself having to make any coasters. My other plan was to make myself a coin purse for my commute. I didn't want to leave my main purse in the outside pocket of my rucksack, but with all the ticket barriers and showing the conductor your ticket 3 times on a trip, I wanted to be able to keep my train ticket safe on the outside pouch. So I have a sewing finished object. I went on to Crafty, there you are, look, and I found a pattern by a designer called Lorelei Jane. I'll add it in text down the bottom here in a minute. It's a free pattern. You can find it on Craftsy, or you can go straight to her website, www.loreleijane.com. That's Jane with a Y. And this pattern is called the Cute Coin and Card Purse. And there are 2, let me find them, card slots on each side of this purse. So if you wanted to keep a credit card in here, you could. I just put my train tickets in. And I used up some fabric scraps that I had. My local fabric shop, Butterfly Fabrics, has sort of off-cut packs, and you might get fat quarters, you might get strips from the ends of a bolt of fabric, or even a 1/2 metre sized piece of cotton. It's usually cotton or polycotton mixes. Great for quilting, or if you just want some pocket bags and anything. So these are some of the scraps I used up. It's a 7, the colours aren't coming up wonderfully well. This is a lemon yellow 7-inch zip. I'm really thrilled with it. And again, some of my scraps, I found this beautiful yellow fabric for a nice cheerful inside. I think I got a few coins in there, look. So this works perfectly. I was really thrilled. I used this yesterday on my commute. Worked perfectly, nobody stole it, and kept my tickets just where I needed them. So I was very pleased with those indeed. That was a great success. I might have accidentally bought some fabric. I'm going to admit that now. I am cold sheeping for yarn, but not for fabric. I tend not to impulse buy fabric because I'm still quite new. I can't really judge how much of things I need. yet. So if I see a fabric and love it, I can't say, oh, I'll need 1.5 meters and I can make a nice t-shirt, or 3 meters will be enough for the dress pattern that I have in my queue. So I very rarely buy fabric without a plan. Yarn, I can eyeball it, I've got enough experience, but not with fabric. Anyway, my walk from work to the train station takes me down City Road in Cardiff, and there are several lovely fabric shops on there. 2 of them are curtains and upholstery, but my favourite is Butterfly Fabrics in Cardiff, and it's an amazing shop. Unfortunately, the shop next door to them had a very destructive fire a few months ago, and it affected the back half of Butterfly Fabrics. So they were closed for a few weeks, which was a great shame, but they've managed to reopen. They're down to about a third of the previous size of their shop, but they have crammed it full of the most gorgeous things. And they have beautiful displays in the windows. They have mannequins, and they take big bolts of fabric and they drape them all over these mannequins, and pin them beautifully so you can see the patterns and the weight of the fabric. And I got a bit sucked in by the window display, and I bought a few things. First up, I've never sewed with rayon before, and I bought a couple of rayon fabrics. Now this first one I love. They've had it in the shop for ages, and I've not been buying it for months because I didn't know what to do with it. But when I went in this time, it was the very, very end of the bolt of fabric, and I thought, well, if you don't get it now, it's going to be gone and you'll be gutted. Just buy what they've got left and worry about a pattern later. So this, let me make sure you can see the pattern. Here's my fabric. It's got toucans and budgerigars. I mean, who doesn't want fabric with toucans on it? So it's a lovely, if I unfold it a bit, you can see it's got lovely drape. It's a medium weight woven. It's not a knit fabric, it's a woven fabric. Lovely colours. I love all of the colours. The pale blue doesn't necessarily suit me, it's quite turquoisey, but there's enough strong colours with the greens and the pinks. And there's some, move it up a bit, there's some feathers and plants there that are a lovely tealy colour. So they had 1.25 metres of this left, so I bought the lot. And I don't know what I need. I need something drapey, maybe a cowl neck something, I'm not sure. So that was my first purchase. Very pleased with that. My second purchase was some lovely cotton lawn. Now, as I said, they'd had some trouble with this fire in the shop next door, so quite a few bolts of their fabric they marked down on sale. I assume it's because of the smell of smoke, although I didn't notice it at all when I went into the shop. I've got some other cotton lawn. I've got some Liberty cotton lawn, the stuff that I chickened out of using to make my pyjamas. So for £3 a metre, I got some of this. It's beautiful. It's cream and a lovely orange with blue flowers and green plants on for £3 a metre. £3 for cotton lawn. I love it. So I bought 3 metres. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. 3 metres is a lot. So I think I need to go through my Pinterest board. It is very lovely and light. I don't think it's going to be see-through as long as you wear a sort of a natural colour, skin colour bra underneath. I think I'll be all right. But I was wondering maybe a nice summer shirt. I've always wanted to make an Archer shirt, one of Grainline's patterns. So maybe I'll give that a go. I'll have to have a look at the fabric requirements. Yes, I was thrilled with that, and I think the colours go rather nicely. Now, my last purchase I did have a plan for. I did go in because I've been wanting to make some dresses. I love dresses. I like the fact you've only got to make one decision. You get up in the morning, I'll put on this dress and that's it. You don't need to match anything. Only one thing needs to be clean. I love them. but I wanted day dresses, comfy, casual things that you can wear out and about. And it's another Tilly in the Buttons pattern. It's the Bettine dress. Now, I started making a toile of this over a year ago. For those of you who aren't sewers, a toile is a mock-up of the finished garment, usually in a cheaper fabric or some plain, I use old sheeting, that sort of thing. So you can make any alterations to the pattern that you think you might need, make up the toile, try it on, and then you can tweak it. Lower the hem, move the bust darts, so that you don't spoil your fashion fabric, the final fabric you want to make it in. If I show you the line drawings on the back, there we are, look. So it has what they call kimono sleeves. So they're not set-in sleeves. The bodice is a front and a back piece, but there are no separate sleeves. It's got an elastic casing in the waist, and there's a version with pockets or without. It calls for light to medium weight drapey fabrics such as viscose rayon, which I've got, cotton voile, lawn or chambray. Now I think with cotton lawn that would be too thin and I'd have to line it or wear a slip, and I can't quite be bothered with that. But I found some more rayon when I went to Butterfly Fabrics and I love it. I love it so much. I think I bought 3.5 meters. The pattern only calls for 3 in my size, but I know I'm going to need to add 2 to 3 inches to the bodice and to the skirt as well, so I wanted to make sure I had plenty. And this is my other rayon fabric. I absolutely love it. I love that it's got a strong background colour. I find a lot of printed fabrics often have white as a background colour, and it looks beautiful, but white makes me look like death on a stick. So I really appreciated the strong colours. And again, orange, I'm really getting suckered into orange, and greens and pinks. And again, it's a woven fabric, so it shouldn't be too difficult to work with. And I think it was £8 a metre, maybe £8 or £9. So given that I've already got the dress pattern, once I've made the alterations, I can make several versions of it. And I think this is going to be fabulous. Chuck a cardigan over it. I could wear it with a long sleeve t-shirt and leggings when it's a bit cooler. So that was my other purchase. I was thrilled with those. I got some matching thread as well. The Butterfly Fabrics is owned by a husband and wife team, and the wife is an absolute demon at choosing thread. She says, "Would you like some thread with that?" And you say, "Yes, please." And she wanders off down the back and she gets it spot on every time. Really impressive. She's got such a good eye for colour. So that was my fabric purchases. I wanted to have a quick mention. I don't know if you also watch Katie from Inside Number 23, her podcast. She's a knitter and a sewer as well. Fantastic podcast. You should really go and give it a try. And she had an interesting section at the end of her last but one podcast, episode 17. In her general waffle section at the end, she had a really honest talk about body image, about her thoughts on it generally and her thoughts on her own body image. And a couple of things that she said really stuck with me. And she said, we often delay making things for ourselves until we have lost that half a stone or made that improvement, and that we shouldn't punish ourselves for not having the body we want to have. We should enjoy the body we've got for now, still try to improve it if you want to, but just enjoy what you've got. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I am not making projects for myself at the moment because I want to lose another half a stone, and it's silly. It's just ridiculous, because I can make whatever it is again in a smaller size if I want to. So I decided that I was going to make some stuff for me, because my body, like it is right now, is worth nice things. So that's why I'm making the Bettine dress. Although I must confess, one of the things that's helped me decide just to go for it is because it has this elastic casing in the middle. If I do lose that little bit of weight I'm trying to do, because it's not a tightly fitted item, it's still going to look really good, and I could always just carefully snip the casing open and shorten the elastic a bit. But yeah, I've got respect for myself as I am right now. As I've said, I'm a gym rat, I love lifting, and I might not be the dress size I'd like to be, but you know what, I can bench 52 kilograms and I can deadlift 93 kilograms, and that makes this body pretty awesome already. So I'm going to sew myself a Bettine dress and I'm going to rock it because I'm amazing as I am. So go and have a look at that episode, inside number 23, episode 17, and just love yourself a bit more and make yourself something fantastic. The last thing I wanted to talk about in my sewing section is, dramatic water break, the Great British Sewing Bee. Oh, you can't have a British sewing blog at the moment and not mention the Great British Sewing Bee. For any of you who aren't familiar, it's a BBC show run along the same sort of line as the Bake Off. So it's a competition. One contestant gets eliminated every week, but it's just so lovely. Everyone's so nice. It's also jumbly. Contestants help each other out, and it's all about sewing. Now, episode 1 was last Monday. It's on Monday nights, 9 p.m, BBC 2. I was torn about whether to stay up. I mentioned that I have very early starts, and that Monday I'd been on an early shift. So I'd been up since 5:30 in the morning, and I'd worked until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just didn't know if I could pin my eyes open late enough to watch it. I thought, do I just think, no, I want to watch it, I'm going to be a grown-up, I'm going to stay up till 10 and watch it, or do I do the sensible thing and go to bed and watch it the following day? I stayed up, no regrets, loved it. So it's presented by Claudia Winkleman, who's an absolute hoot. She has a really interesting sense of fashion, not my taste, but very clean lines, nothing fussy, quite boxy garments, looks fabulous. She's the presenter, and then the two judges are, and I had to write these names down because I'm not very good with names, Patrick Grant, terribly dapper gentleman, beautifully turned out. He's a tailor. He's the creative director of Norton and Sons in Savile Row in London. So absolutely, British classic thoroughbred tailoring there. Has a huge amount to bring to the show. And then the other judge, who replaces May Martin, who was in the first 3 series. Our new judge is Esme Young, who I hadn't heard of, I must admit. She's an older lady. I love the fact that they're not just replacing May Martin with a bit of totty. Esme Young is the senior lecturer in Central St Martin's in London, which is a fantastic college for art, design, fashion and fabric. And so she has a real eye for the design, and I think May Martin perhaps had more of a teaching background. So they're a really good team, actually. They had 3 challenges. The first one was a lady's top cut on the bias. The second one is always a remake. So they give you one garment and they challenge you to refashion it into something else. And this time round they had a maternity dress that they had to refashion. And then the final challenge is the contestants have to make a garment, but they can choose their own pattern and they have been allowed to practice it beforehand. And it was really interesting. I was watching the bias cut top challenge, the first one, and I was quite surprised at how many of the sewists there were saying things like, I've never cut anything on the bias, I've never used bias binding before. They were really struggling with what to me are quite basic skills. Now, it's not to say I would do any better. I'm sure I would have made a complete pig's ear of it. I was just surprised. I thought if you're applying to the sewing bee, bias binding, surely that's fairly basic. Anyway, there were some lovely tops. The remake challenge was a bit underwhelming, actually. This maternity dress was a lovely colour, and because it was a maternity dress, there was a huge amount of fabric, so it really gave you lots of options, and it was fully lined as well. And we ended up with a lot of very not exciting skirts, actually. And Patrick called one of the remakes a tabard. which I think was very accurate. It's the sort of thing that dinner ladies and cleaners wear in schools. It was really not very exciting at all. But the last challenge was to make a skirt, and there were some absolute crackers there. I wrote down some of the names. I am rooting for Josh, Team Josh, because Josh is from Cardiff and he went to Cardiff Met University, which I have links with my business. So I am definitely Team Josh, and he did wonderfully well on the skirt challenge. Obviously, being a bloke, he has mostly made things for himself and alterations for his other male friends. So I don't think he'd made a skirt before at all, and he'd lost the back facing piece of his skirt, so he had to make that from scratch, but it was a beautiful fit. I was also very impressed with Jade. She's the youngest ever contestant. She's only 18. And for her skirt, she made a wonderful high-waisted boned skirt with acres of tulle, and the bottom of it was trimmed. It was black net, and then the bottom was trimmed with silver bias binding, and it was gorgeous. Really good techniques. And Angeline, who's from Northern Ireland, she made what turned out to be Garment of the Week. She made a beautiful form-fitting pencil skirt with a peplum at the bottom and some piping to just pick out the colours in the fabric. So I really enjoyed that. Definitely worth staying up for. If you haven't seen it, do go and have a look. I'm not sure how you can find it if you're in the States. To help you access the BBC website. They do have a Great British Sewing Bee page on the website. It's got little character slots about the contestants, links to the episodes. So do go and have a go on the website, have a look around and watch along. It's very inspiring. It certainly encouraged me to get off my backside and sew a garment. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. On to my needles section, my knitting bit, and it's been quite a 2 weeks. Last time I showed you my Croft Hoose hat kit. It was my one purchase this year, my only purchase this year, hopefully, and I was really pleased with it. But it unleashed something in me. I don't know what it was. I had no problems not buying yarn until I bought that kit, and now I wanted to buy all the yarn, all of it. I was binge watching Grocery Girls podcast, and they have such beautiful yarn that they buy and that they get sent, and these mini swaps that they do. And I was on Etsy browsing, I was looking it up on Ravelry, internet searching. Oh, it was a close run thing, but I managed to rein myself in. My sheep are still frosty, but it was close. It was damn close. So I decided that to try and get out of that mindset, I had to finish some things and then I could have a good stash dive, treat myself to a new knitting pattern or two and cast some stuff on. So let me first of all show you my finished objects. Now, my most favourite finished object, I'll have to show you in a second. One of the things I learned from my podcast, my first episode, is that I have shifty eyes. I'm still not quite confident looking at the camera. I want to look at myself on the screen. And so quite a few times in the video, I was noticing myself and my eyes are going like this. And I had shifty eyes. So I decided I needed something to help me focus on the camera. And one of my fellow knitters in my Ravelry thread knitted something. And I thought, I'm making one of those. So he sat just up here. Let me get him down and I'll show you. This has got a bit of sticky tape on his bottom. Look, I knit a chicken. Oh, I love this. I wrote down the pattern. It is, the pattern is by Anna Hrachovec. Excuse my pronunciation, and it's called number 29, Tiny Chicken. And it's exactly that. It's a teeny weeny little chicken. I knit him on scrap yarn on 2.25mm double pointed needles, and you knit a tiny weeny little body and you decrease, and then it's a little bit of garter for his comb on the top, a couple of embroidery eyes and a beak, and his little legs, bless him, you do a tiny bit of I-cord, and then you leave the tails quite long, and it's one continuous piece of I-cord that you pull through the bottom here. I'm not giving away any secrets, it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I'll put links to all of these in the drop down bar at the bottom. So I made myself, which way am I going? A tiny chicken. So this is hen solo. Get it? Do you get it? Hen solo, hand solo, hen solo. And what I do is I put a little bit of doubled over sellotape on his bottom. Oh, it's run out of stick now. And I sit him just above the camera on my laptop so that actually I've got someone to talk to. He's not going to balance now. No, I have to tuck him down there. So yes, hen solo, knit yourself a chicken. That was my first finished object. I love him. Also, I wanted to finish my yellow scarf, and I did. So this pattern is called Amber Ale. It's by Thea Colman. Again, find it on Rav. It's a paid for pattern. And I was very close to the end of it the last time. I just had about another 40 rows to go. So I whipped through it. Here we are. It's Wollemeise DK yarn in Good Morning. I knit it on 4.5mm needles. Huge love to Claire, who sent me both the yarn and the pattern. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's just the right length, long enough to go around your neck, but not so long that it's going to flap around. And look at that. Squishy, gorgeous, love it. That's my other finished object. I was really thrilled with that. I mentioned that I hurt my back training the other day, which made blocking this a bit of a challenge. It is, it's a scarf, so it's quite long and it's quite wide, and my back was so sore, I didn't fancy crawling around for hours pinning everything out. But my friend Claire suggested that you just fold it in half, like so, and run blocking wires through the edges and pull it out, and that's exactly what I did. So I blocked it folded in half. I didn't block the ribbed edge out because I wanted that to stay quite squishy. So I ran the blocking wires down this section here, and then across the top edge here. So I had the two blocking wires along this bit and again at the bottom, and it just meant I could measure the distance between the two blocking wires and it'd be the same all the way down the scarf. So it didn't take too long to do. I took a Nurofen and pushed through, so that was fine. So I got those two things knit. That gave me a quick, satisfying hit for knitting, and freed up some needles and some project bags. So I had a burst of startitis, casting on lots of things to try and stop myself buying new yarn. I decided to keep a list. I thought, okay, you can't buy new yarn yet, but you will be able to in the future. So I've started a little list in the back of my knitting notebook. And when I decide that Cold Sheep is over, I can go back to that list and remember the skeins I was aching for and treat myself to some. I had some Wool and Vine yarns that I was after. What else did I look at? Can't remember. Wool and Vine yarns, Bear and Voller, Lolo did it. Bar Ram used Titus is some yarn I've been drooling over for years. So I wrote them all down, and I can buy them next year, or if people want to buy me Christmas presents, I can have a look at that list. So I decided that I could buy some new patterns and cast on with some of my stash yarn that I'd been hoarding, some of the nice stuff, and that would hopefully stop me buying the yarn. The trouble is, I hate casting on. I'm quite a process knitter. I like the sweet spot of a project when everything's moving along nicely, your fingers can fly, you just cruise through it. I love winding yarn. I tend to wait until my children are in bed and then I wind the yarn, because otherwise they want to help and I get a bit jealous. I don't think I'm a very good mum. I like to wind the yarn myself. Anyway, so I dug all the yarn out of my stash that I wanted and I matched it up to some patterns, but I don't enjoy mucking about with needle sizes and tension squares. You call them gauge swatches in America, but I think the British version of tension squares is a much better name because it can be very tense trying to get it right. Sorry, that's Jim. Jim, shush. He's woofing because he can hear Jocelyn coming home from her dance class. Jim, shush. He's saving me. It could be a serial killer, we just don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So yes, I treated myself to some patterns and did some casting on. So I'll give you a quick trot through those. My first pattern, I'm keeping that in another of my handmade bags. This is a free pattern on Ravelry for socks. And it's called the Zigzagular sock pattern. And it's a vanilla sock, but it has a panel all the way up it of a zigzag cable pattern, which is just interesting enough to keep you going and not too complicated. And I skeined up this. This is another present to me from Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. And it's just so cheerful. It's got oranges and purples and pinks, and I just love it. And the glorious things about sock knitting is that if you love a colour but it doesn't suit you, you just knit socks with it and wear it anyway. So that's what I decided to do. I wrote the colour down. It is Lorna's Laces Shepherd Sock, Shepherd Sock Multi in colourway 630 Bittersweet. So that's what I cast on with. And I made it this far. Hang on one second, my daughter's coming back in. Hi Jocelyn, I'm recording my podcast, lovely, so nice and quiet for me, yes? So here we are, this is how far I've got, and you can see down here, it's only a 2-stitch cable, two 2-stitch cables every other row, and it's just this nice winding pattern, and it's knitting up beautifully. I'm really enjoying it. If I show you the back, look, it's gorgeous. I've put a progress keeper on it. This is one that I got from Atomic Knitting, so that will help me keep track. And I'm knitting it on 2.5mm Knit Picks fixed circular needles. I was good, and I made a tension square for this, and it lied. People say tension squares lie, and they're right. This yarn, I've not knit with it before, so I thought I'd better check my tension. And I knit it on these needles, had the tension I needed, chose the size I needed, cast it on, and it's too big. Not a lot, but just enough. So I think what I'm going to do, I won't rip it out, I'm still only on the leg, so I'm going to go down a needle size, and I'm going to carry on with my addies. There we are, 2.25mm, which is my normal sock knitting size. I like these slightly better. It's a bit of a smoother join and the cable is much more flexible. Generally, I prefer knitting socks on double pointed needles, but I always get ladders. I can't not get ladders. So given that most of this sock is stocking stitch, I decided I would do magic loop and just put up with it. So that was my first cast on. My second cast on was, let me find my pattern. Don't know what I've done with the pattern. Sorry, got my knitting basket with me. Is this one. There we are. The 3-colour Cashmere Shawl by Joji Locatelli. Now this was, or maybe still is, a knit along in the Grocery Girls group on Ravelry. As I said, I've been binge watching their episodes, and this is finished now, but I just love the pattern. It's a large crescent shaped shawl. I can show that's the shape it's going to end up without giving any pattern details away. I much prefer a crescent shape, and it's going to end up big, and as I said, I do like a larger shawl pattern because I'm so tall myself. So you need as it says, 3 different colours, and I dug through my stash, and it's a bit tricky. I've got lots of different balls of yarn here. I wanted to use my Travelknitter that I showed you the last time in the really dark purple, and I dug through my stash, and that is what I came up with. So the dark purple is Travelknitter Merino Sock in Highlands, which is the 2016 exclusive colourway for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. This cream is undyed merino lace that was given to me by Jenny from Owl About Yarn. I'm holding this doubled, which is why I've got 2 balls of yarn, which makes it a bit tricky wrangling everything while I'm knitting, but I can manage that. And then this multicolour is half a ball left over for some fingerless mitts I knit quite a while ago, and it's Araucania multi. Let me find the colour details on here. Araucania Ranco Sock Multi, colour 307. So those are my choices. The purple is A, colour A, the cream is colour B, and then the multi is colour C. And I can't stop knitting this. My plan was to cast on 4 new things. I found 4 patterns, got all of the yarn out, 4 new things. Well, I only cast on the socks and this shawl pattern because I can't stop knitting it. I can't. And here it is. I wasn't sure about the really strong contrast between the very dark purple and the cream lace, but I love it. I absolutely love it. I love these little eyelets. It's just enough interest to keep you going, and I'm into the striped section 2 now, and I absolutely love it. I've got my it's not going to show now. Owl About Yarn Progress Keeper, so that when I show this next time you can see how far I've got. I'm knitting this on 4mm, 4mm interchangeable needles. Again, it's just my Knit Pros. I like the wood. It's nice and soft on my hands, just grippy enough. And I've been really enjoying knitting this, and I can't stop. I haven't, usually when I knit shawls, I knit very lacy ones. If you have a look at my project page on Ravelry, you'll see lots of lacy shawls on there. And I've never been tempted by colour block or texture shawls before, but this just hit the spot. I absolutely love it, and it's not complicated. There is a lace section towards the end, but it looks quite simple. And yeah, I had a look at the knit along in the Grocery Girls group, and there were so many gorgeous shawls there, and I just thought, nope, I'm going to make myself one of those, and it's going to be amazing. So I'm really enjoying knitting on this as well. My other work in progress in my slightly disappointing project bag are the Christmas socks I showed you last week for my dad. Now, as I said, I had quite a few extra shifts. I've been in and out on the train, so I managed to make really good progress. And here we are. I have finished the first sock. Can you see the size of those feet? Look at them. They're ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I managed to knit from the Progress Keeper, which is there we are. It's a tiny little jumper and knitting needles. And again, this is from Atomic Knitting. So I knit from, I'm doing these top down, so I knit from the Progress Keeper all the way down to the toe. I didn't have any more broken yarn like I showed you the last time. The rest of the ball was good, and I made it to 2 rows before I needed to start the toe, before my brown yarn, half of my brown yarn ran out. So this multi-brown, it's the same yarn, it's still Zettle Valbella, so it's the same thickness, which is nice. So I'm just going to do contrast toes. They don't look amazing. I'd rather have finished it in solid yarn, but it got the job done and I didn't have to buy any more. So I finished that one, and I cast on for the next one. I've just about finished the cuff and I'm ready to start the pattern on there. I was coming home from work the other day, and as a lady was getting off at the station before mine, she came over to have a good look at my knitting and said how pleased she was that people still knit, and that she used to remember knitting ribbed socks on 2mm needles years ago, and she was so chuffed that people were still carrying on with this. So that was really nice. I don't mind knitting in public at all. you end up with some really interesting conversations happening with people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. One gentleman asked me what I was sewing the other day, and I said, I'm not sewing. He said, yes, you are, I can see. I said, no, I'm knitting. So anyway, he was nice, and it was a nice, friendly train journey, chatting about craft and things like that. So I'm carrying on with those. I am fed up with them. I'm really fed up with them. But I'm hoping that if I can just keep going on the second sock in half an hour bursts, they'll get themselves done. I've lost my podcast notes now. Here we are. I found them. Don't panic. I found them. So, the other thing I forgot to mention with my Lorna's Laces socks. Again, I signed up to the Grocery Girls group on Ravelry. Here they are again. Look, and they are having a knit along. It's called the Fancy Feet Knit Along. Anyone can join in, and the point of it is to try and make yourself learn a new technique. And it can be anything, but you must learn a new technique. Now, I love top down, heel flap and gusset socks with a standard wedge toe. So my new techniques for this one is cabling without a cable needle, because these cables, as I said, they are two stitch cables. So they're quite fiddly. So I tried cabling without a cable needle for my new technique, and I can manage it for the front twist. When you're holding the stitch at the front, I can manage it, but I can't get the hang of it when the stitch is at the back. I've tried gripping the stitch at the base, but then I can't manoeuvre my needles to knit it, and if I let it hang, it slips down and the stitch runs. So I haven't conquered that one yet, but I am cabling without a cable needle on the front twist, so that's fine. And when I get to the heel, I'm going to do a fish lips kiss heel, which everyone talks about, but I've never tried. That's only $1 Australian, so go and have a look at that. I think I'll put a lifeline in before I start the heel. I'll do the heel, I'll knit half of the foot and try it on and see if I like it. If I don't like it, I'll rip it out and do a heel flap and gusset, because I don't want a pair of socks that I can't wear, and that might mean I have to drop out of the knit along, but it doesn't matter. I'll have tried the new technique. So if you're interested, come and join us in the Grocery Girls group and knit some socks. Try a different heel, try toe up if you always do cuff down, and just expand your skills a bit. Well, I think that is everything for this week. I hope you've enjoyed my trot through my projects and had a good look at some of the yarn I've been casting on. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Oh, no, there was another thing I forgot. I didn't buy any yarn, but with casting on all of these new projects, I needed some new row counters. I've got a standard clover clicker. They call them catcher because it's the noise they make, but I only had one, and I couldn't find any more at Wonderwall. I'd been hoping to find some at an Ocean stand, but didn't manage it, so I ordered myself some of these off eBay. They're fabulous. They've got this little strap that if you want to, you can wrap it round your finger and wear it, so you're never going to lose it. You'll always keep track of it. It does get a bit sweaty, I'm not going to lie. It's perhaps not great for summer, but they do lie completely flat if you just want to leave it on your lap. And they're a digital row counter, so you press it once, that way, and then you just press it again. Eventually it does turn itself off, but then you press it once and it wakes it back up, and then you press it again to move on a row, and then a tiny little reset button, which is quite stiff, which I like. There's no danger of you accidentally resetting to 0. So my normal internet ordering skills triumphed. I wanted 2 and somehow I ended up with 3. I don't know how that happened. So I've got a purple, a pink and a green. So one of these now lives in all of my project bags. I can't remember the name of the shop, but they were literally $1.99, something like that. They're absolutely fabulous, so maybe treat yourself to one of those. Right, that really is the end of my podcast. I mean it this time. See you in a couple of weeks. Happy knitting, happy sewing. Don't forget to watch the Great British Sewing Bee Monday nights, 9 p.m, BBC 2. And yeah, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will be back soon. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.